Well, actually, we sound pretty good.
Oh,
we look terrible. We look terrible.
Oh,
we sound good.
We've got faces made for podcasting.
Exactly. We're not even up to radio standard faces. We got podcast faces.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 485 of the Dead Robot Society. I'm Terry Mixon. Joining me, Paul E. Cooley. How you doing, man?
Bah.
You know how many times you say that? You say that all the time. Why do I get the label of curmudgeon when you say this all the time?
Because you look so much more curmudgeonly than I do.
No, I just look like Grizzly Adams. There's a difference.
Not much of one.
Well, maybe not.
I'm doing all right. If my knee will hurry up and get fixed.
Well, I told you that doing that whole Rockettes thing was really bad for you. You should have paid attention.
I know those high kicks and that bikini it didn't work out well.
I'm not sure which is the worst crime against humanity, the high kick or the bikini.
I don't know. After seeing Sean Connery and Zardos or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, that's you're like, whoa, you can't see that.
I'm not really sure I could top that.
I can see him now. You want me to wear what?
You want my Johnson to be where? I swear they stuffed his bikini too, because he's carrying around about 5 pounds of man meat inside that little glove.
That's what he carries around every day.
It's what he'd like you to believe anyway. Yeah, if you've never seen Zardos, I have never seen the movie, but go. If you don't know what we're talking about, go Google it. Sean Connery and Zardos. You'll thank me later.
No, you will not thank him later, but you've been warned that will never come out of your brain.
Oh yeah, it's permanently etched. It is permanently etched. Yeah, there are some things that cannot be unseen, which is most everything on the internet.
That is totally true.
Yeah, it's a bad time. It's a bad time.
What are you doing, man? Writing wise, what's going on in your life?
I've been working a lot on getting recording done, and also working, of course, on Trident, which I'm still messing around with. So that's basically the deal. Destruction is with the beta readers, and that one's out of my hair. So all I've got left now is finish recording Gears Inferno and work my ass off on Trident. So while I'm doing more and more planning for the Black 4, because all these scenes just keep jumping into my head now. And
put it off too long. That's your problem. Now you got all these scenes that you want to include.
It's gonna be an issue. It is gonna be an issue. I was afraid that the book would be way too boring, but then in a flash of serendipity, I figured out how I think I can make it work. And there's some people who have been clamoring to get killed in the Black, one of the Black books. So I'm lining up the red shirts. It'll be glorious. It'll be glorious. It won't be as glorious as book 5, because I know how book 4 ends. And book 5 is going to be I may clean out the graveyard in one book. Just clean it out. Just kill everybody.
Well, here's what you need to do. You need to go have a coroner going down this row of bodies and going, read.
Read.
What is this? Was there like a family outing where all the Reeds were killed?
Oh God. They're one day I might write a book like that. That would be funny. Poor Thomas Reed. We love him, but wow.
There's Romeo.
Hello, Romeo.
He's exploring.
Poor Romeo.
He's having a grand old time. Wow, I moved that and my bar on the bottom disappeared.
Huh?
It's gone on my end. I can't see the little bar that goes on the bottom anymore on my video. I must have done something when I moved the video camera.
I'm really beginning to believe that you need to switch from Windows before it eats you.
Are you saying that Windows is the black?
I'm saying that there's something going on your side, which is very suspicious. Let's put it that way. Anyway, other than that, I got the first round of beta reader comments back from my dad, who read a 133,000 word book with doing edits within 24 hours because said he could not put it down. So I'm guessing that's a good sign. Even if it is my dad. But yeah, the only thing I'm afraid of now, Terry, is Trident. Oh God.
Why are you afraid of this, man?
Well, the more and more I'm thinking about it, the bigger it's getting. So it would be like there's the Mirror trilogy, and there could be the Trident trilogy before this is all over with. But I'll feel like an asshole if I put this thing out in that same format again. So I'm going to have to do something about it, but it's just ridiculous because I can do so much because what they're going to find is so much. And, Trident Shipyards is not exactly a small place.
You're learning something that I learned as I write more books in a series, that the more you write, the more things you can write about appear in your story universe. And it only gets worse the further you go.
Yeah, I'm just going to let the story go where it needs to go. And we'll figure it out as we go along. But I was afraid that this would be too close to Signal Decay or my original ideas for Signal Decay. But I've since said, fuck that. If I write Signal Decay, it will be different because it will focus more on nanites than anything else, which are, they're a big deal in the Derelict Saga and Soul and Beyond because that's what everybody's using to fight cancer and all this other stuff. So then taking that in another series and making them the enemy would be kind of fun. So that was kind of the original plan for Signal Decay anyway. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But basically, I got to get Trident rolling because I want to get it done by May. I want to get the first draft done by May.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah, I'm pushing hard because we're gonna get Destruction published in May, and I've already called Silver Press for the artwork. So they're gonna start working on that, I hope. And then we'll have more going after that. So get the assembly line running again, man. It's been a while.
Yep, I agree. As for me, I haven't accomplished a damn thing, really. I'm still trying to get the painting finished. Before the next time we record, it will be done and I'll have my office back. Then I can start writing again.
Writing? What's that?
It's the stuff that you can't do when you share an office with your wife. Love the woman. Cannot share an office with her.
Yeah, that happens. It happens. I can understand completely, but then again, you're talking to the guy who can go to a bar. If I can't write in my office, I go to a bar. I go to a coffee shop. I go somewhere, and then suddenly the words just vomit out in the page. Not sure why.
That's visually striking.
Well, I don't know what you want from me, buddy. I don't know what you want from me. See, this is why I call you the curmudgeon, because you're always stirring shit up.
I don't think curmudgeon means what you think it means.
No, I know it doesn't mean that. I'm just saying, because you're always making these comments. It always sounds like, get off my lawn.
I think I should have that as my saying all the time, get off my lawn. Because that's my life in a nutshell.
And start the episode with, hi, I'm Terry Mixon. Get off my lawn.
Make for a short episode.
It would be for a very short episode. Somebody might thank us for making a short episode one of these days.
That's what we should do when April 1st comes around. We should record an intro and an outro. Nothing in the middle.
Nothing else.
That's it. Just put that out as the episode to have people flip out.
That'd be kind of fun.
Something's wrong, man. The entire episode's screwed. There's nothing there. April Fools.
or I'll splice in like cuts from horror movies or some bullshit. That would be freaking hilarious. Oh,
yeah.
The comments.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm expecting to need to start writing on the Glenn Stewart work at the end of this month. My evil plan, since I am not going to finish the book I'm currently working on by then, is to write what I need to for Glenn and then write a scene in the book that I'm going to be starting before that so that I can continue the thread going, because letting one sit for a while, yeah, that was a bad idea. I don't need to repeat that particular mistake.
No, I think you need to, you figured out what I figured out a while ago, unfortunately. The longer you let that book sit like that, the more, I don't know. Yep. I have a hard time getting back into the book. I have a hard time getting back into the book. What got me back into Garrus Inferno was basically reading it. And the same thing with the Black Four, was just basically going back over what I read. And now I got excited about the story again. So if you take the time off, I think you lose the
thread.
Well, it's not just the thread. I think your brain loses those serendipitous moments. I think they because the serendipitous moments are what keep us coming back. They really are. They're what keep us coming back to the story and those characters, is when we figure out something new and horrible to do to them. I think it's when you're really into the book and you're really excited about it and you're working on it and everything's going gangbusters, all those moments happen. And every time it does, it's just this massive runner's high. What are the starts with an
like
E.
endorphins.
Endorphins. Thank you. Sorry, I had a senior moment. The endorphins that come on for that is part of the reason why this particular vocation can be so addicting. Is when you start running those massive endorphin rushes, it gets very difficult to focus on anything else. And that's where I've been for the lab. When I was working on Destruction, I did not want to do anything else. I didn't care what it was. So yeah, keeping that rolling once you have it, kind of important. It just makes it easier. But you can get back in there. You can find your place again. I proved it with two books now. You can get back in there and find that thread, as you're calling it, and start sewing again. So I'm going to do the same thing you're doing with the Black Four and probably Signal Decay. Probably. We'll see.
Well, I know that once the first of the month rolls around for April, that I'll have about 40,000 words I need to write over 25 days. I intend to have it done sooner than that. So it should just be a fairly small bump.
40,000 words over 25 days should be pretty, it should be very doable.
It's very doable, and it leaves me enough time to continue writing some on the other work so that I don't lose track and don't lose the feeling, everything that's going on in that particular book.
Yeah, the moment you're going to hate is when you find that part of the roller coaster that's going down on the book that you're not supposed to be writing on all the time, and suddenly, going back to the other book is so hard because this is all this play stuff's going on over here, and I want to go over there because I'm in the swampy middle. God damn it! Yeah, that's how that works.
Well, since Glenn is writing the first 20,000 and the last 20,000,
you are writing the swampy middle. I
am the swampy middle of that particular book. My goal in life is to go ahead and go so far afield that the last 20,000 words, he goes, how the hell am I going to get this to the conclusion?
We'll have him on for a show. We're going to say, well, I gave Terry the following set of things, and here's all the shit he did to me.
He had one job. One job.
And instead, he gave me 20 to clean it up. I had to hire an entire janitorial staff to come in here and finish up this plot.
I can see it now. I introduced some character and theme in the middle of this, and he's like, where did this person come from? Who the hell is this?
Why are they here? What are we going to do with them?
What are they doing? Who is this person?
So at the end of this 40,000 word sprint, are you just basically going to give him, here's all the shit that I fucked up and let him go figure it out?
We're going to do like we did in the first book. And as we write it, it's going into the Dropbox. So both of us are going to be up to speed as it goes along.
Right. Yeah.
Because he does the initial pass on mine. I do the initial pass on his. to, correct a word here, make a comment about something that's going on, and it's happening as they're being posted, so we don't get too far ahead. So I shouldn't be introducing things that that are going to blindside him.
Yeah, you shouldn't be, but
hey, if he wanders off and his attention strays, this is not my fault, right?
So Terry writes his final chapter, and it's just like a complete Golgothic mess. The last chapter he's responsible for, he introduces 15 new characters and plot lines. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where he throws that chapter out, says, nope.
Nope. Try again.
Pretty much.
It would be kind of a funny prank to play, but at the same time, it's like, no, this guy invited me into his world. I'm not going to do that.
That's right. No,
I know.
I'm not going to do anything to him.
I know anybody I brought into my worlds would do that to me because, I only work with the worst people on the planet.
That sounds like a challenge. Listeners, if you're ever playing it right with Paul Cooley, that's what you have to do, because he just challenged you, said, those motherfuckers can't do that.
I knew the moment I said that, I was like, this is going to come back and bite me in the ass, isn't it? This is going to come back and bite. I just need to learn
everything else.
Just like everything. I just need to learn how to shut my damn mouth.
I think that may be the root of many of your problems.
Ooh, this coming from you?
Yes, absolutely. Pot, kettle, black. Here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Well.
So basically, we have plans, and they're all screwed up. So we're trying to execute them.
Maybe we'll be actually, back on course for something by the middle of the year.
I feel like if I get Trident done, the first draft or the second draft done by the end of May, I will be back on track, because I think that by then I'll have hopefully another 10 or 20,000 words on the Black 4 done as well. So I think it'll be a little bit easier. And I think if Destruction sells well, it's just gonna be another kick in my ass to get off and go do what I need to do. So we shall see.
One of my biggest problems, I think, is trying to set up a schedule for the year. I just need to stop looking that far in advance and just work on the project that I want to work on right then.
This is the thing. You're indie, right? You don't have a publisher saying, we're going to publish these books on these dates. You need to get us this, that, and the other by then. You're indie. You have the opportunity to choose which projects you want to work on and when you want them to come out. And in my world of worlds, in where I wish I was, I would like to have 3 books in the pipeline. In other words,
that's audacious.
3 books in the publishing pipeline. I would love to have that at one time, because then I could basically go, this quarter we're publishing this quarter we're publishing this. You have 4 books a year out, and then go for 6. If I can just get 4 books out in 1 year, I will feel very good. Especially considering how long these books are starting to turn out. So it just depends. If I have to break Trident up into 2 books, I will do it. I'll piss off everybody in the universe, but they're used to it. We'll see. I'll if I can find a stopping point in Trident that is a nice end of an arc before the next one starts, and I think I can do this, then I could probably put Trident out as 2 75,000 word books, which make life so much easier for me. Because, man, editing 133 grand. I
got to tell you, though, a Trident has 3 prongs, so you should have 3 books.
It may turn into that. It may turn into that. We'll see. It may be a running gag in this series that whenever the series ends, they've blown the shit out of whatever the name is that they're working with. So yeah, it could happen. So you get to that point. I know we both have had this before. You get to that point where you get to the end of an arc, and then you're looking at the next arc, and you're sitting there going, "There's so much I can do here. There's so much I can do here." And then it becomes, how do I package this? Because it's going to be a mess. The characters are going to be running for their lives every damn chapter, or we're going to drop some new information about what's going on with the trio or what's going on with the exosolar life forms, all these different conspiracies. There's just so much shit that I've set up that now it's like, I don't think I can tie any of this up in Trident. There's like maybe one or two things I can tie up with the Trident, however many books that ends up being. But I know there's more after this because we have to get deeper into Soul System.
And no matter what you do, as you write Trident, you're going to open up even more things that could go on.
Yes.
The list of things that can be tied up gets longer the more you write in a series, not shorter.
It's like this humongous bowl of spaghetti where somebody, where the noodles were like a mile long, like soba noodles, whatever the Japanese ones are. And you pull on it and it just keeps going and going and going and going. And they're all like that. You've only got 7 noodles in there, but each one of them's a mile long.
Good God. Now you make me want to go on the internet and look up what the record is for the longest noodle.
I'm not waiting around for that shit. We should start this episode.
You know, you're absolutely right. We should talk about that. So let's go ahead and segue into our topic of the day. And this is going to be an interesting one to talk about because it's one that a lot of us have to deal with in one form or another. And it's something that no one really wants to talk about, but it's something that so let's go ahead and just dive right in.
And joining us today is the wonderful voice of all of Terry's audiobooks, as well as a couple of mine, the wonderful Veronica Giguere. Hello, V.
Hello, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing just
Hello,
fine.
Terry. How are you?
I'm doing good. And by the way,
Yay.
she is the one that makes me sound good because I don't sound that good on my own.
we know that after 400 and something episodes of this show, we damn well know that.
It's all totally true.
You couldn't have figured out that by now. Veronica is also a very accomplished writer with Secret World Chronicles, among other things. So be sure and check her out. And if you're looking for somebody to narrate your audiobooks, she is definitely the person to talk to because I'm not available. Anyway.
Aww. But I had the perfect role for you.
Oh, yeah, I'll bet. I'm sure I know for a fact that V and her cadre, folks on her side of the biz, just shake their head and cringe every time I do a female voice. I know it. I mean, we did. There was an intervention.
I've heard worse.
Yeah, I know. ScottSigler.com. I'm so gonna get so much shit. Anyway, we invited you here today to talk about something we've kind of been spending a little more time on the show recently, and with certain events that have happened over the last 2 months for all of us in DRS family, it was kind of a topic that I wanted to scratch because I've also seen some of this in the listener group as well as emails, which is, how do you use writing to balance out the problems that may come from depression, bipolar disorder, etc.? And what are some coping mechanisms that you can kind of work into your writing and your creative process? So it's kind of a personal topic for me, obviously, because I'm insane. But it is something that a lot of people have wondered about. So, V, what's the problem here?
Well, there's not really a problem. I mean, the issue is that, sometimes neurochemical balances are not in a good place and everybody manages them differently. Now we should probably point out that none of us are medical professionals and none of us are psychology professionals. I do have a background in science education with a focus on psychology from a higher ed side. So I've had to work with a lot of people who had to go through, college with depression, with anxiety, with bipolar, with, those are your main ones. Then you can have processing disorders and challenges, and figuring out how to manage those I think the biggest step is acknowledging and saying it's okay to acknowledge that, yeah, this is a challenge that I'm living with. And it's not, I think the first thing is it's not going to go away. It's not the sort of thing that is ever going to completely go and be gone. It's not like a cold. You're not going to suddenly get this magic medicine and a couple of weeks with tissues and Benadryl and it's gone.
If only. If only.
Yeah. I guess full disclosure, I have anxiety. So generalized anxiety disorder. There are a couple of fun things that trigger it. And I've had it, in retrospect, I know I've had it since I was a kid, 3rd, 4th grade. And only 6 years ago, maybe, I actually got a name put to what I was doing. I thought I was just stressed and overworked and not able to cope. I'm like, oh, wait, this is neurochemical. So having that and then going into working for myself, like we all do, it's just another thing that we have to figure out how to manage. But like you said, how do you do it? How do you use writing to help manage? Or how do you manage writing alongside? Because I don't want to say in spite of.
No, they're two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. It's how do you manage this additional challenge alongside what you love to do?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
One of the things that I want to add to this is that I don't have depression. The biggest thing I've got is imposter syndrome, which is probably not actually a real thing. And as Paul would say, I probably have the Dunning-Kruger effect, but that's a totally different issue.
The Dunning-Kruger effect?
Yeah.
Are you not familiar with that?
Apparently not.
Oh, it's where somebody that's completely incompetent thinks they're competent.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gotcha.
It's the actual, if you, and again, the science nerd, if you go and find the research paper on it, you can look up Dunning-Kruger effect, Krueger, I think, and Dunning, Dunning. But essentially it says that if you're really good at something, you're going to underestimate how good you are. And if you suck at something, you're going to overestimate how good you are. And if you've got these two extremes and you test them and those groups then self-assess, best people are going to assess lower, low people are going to assess higher. And then when they come together, that's when the middling comes up. They kind of realize, oh, I don't suck, or oh, I could stand to get better.
Yeah, if you can acknowledge that through your own narcissism.
But yeah, if you like reading science papers, it's actually a very short paper. Sorry,
it's only 1,100
it was
pages long.
It's 8. Thank you very much. It's a journal article.
It's only 1,200 pages long.
Maybe Paul, you're only suited for the abstracts.
Maybe. I think that's about my attention span with most of this stuff, because when I tried to read about chaos in gravity theory, I was just gonna like, the fuck are you guys talking about? All I wanted was like, just tell me 2 paragraphs. Is there chaos in quantum gravity? That's all I wanted to know.
That's physics. This is psychology. This is a little easier to manage.
Well, okay, yes, but you know,
I'm not dealing with depression, so I don't have that particular issue. I don't have anxiety, so I am probably the least qualified to give anyone advice on how to deal with those things. But I'm willing to give it the old college try.
Good. Because you can always be an ally and an advocate.
I don't think it's necessarily a matter of advice. I think it's basically just experience. Because I think the shrinks will tell you that, like, I just had a massive medication shift and things are kind of all over the place. My brain is shivering right now. It's a really, really difficult sensation to explain, but that's what we call it. When you go off Cymbalta, you have severe withdrawal, and it's sucked. It's been 5 days of this. So they will tell you that there are no certainties. Medications take root and they do their job for a while, and then they don't. And they don't know why. It's just the fact that the brain has changed, or something else has changed. Maybe something in your environment has changed, and suddenly renders one or more of those medications, it nullifies their effects. And then it becomes a nice little medical safari while they try and figure out the shit that they can give you to possibly get you back on keel. And a friend of mine who's also bipolar, they just put her on lithium. And it's the first time she's ever had that.
Ooh.
That's a tough one.
And it's been interesting to watch the side effects, let me tell you. So it's not, these conditions aren't death sentences. You won't get burned at the stake anymore for having them. But there's still a lot of challenges with it. I was misdiagnosed when I was maybe 13 or 14. And I don't know how my life would have been if I had been correctly diagnosed at that time. But I did not talk to a shrink again until, God, what was that, 39, 40? So I lived with bipolar symptoms, pretty much my entire life up to that point without getting any kind of medication. And a lot of confusion was around what was going on in my head. And it explains a lot of things that I did. And I can look back at them now and go, holy shit, you did what? Because you have those moments when you come out of mania or you come out of, massive depression where, I mean, you will just have done just the weirdest shit. Mm-hmm. And it's not until somebody points it out to you when you're out of it. When you're inside of it, you cannot see that there's anything wrong. And it's only when other people, kind of pick up on what's going on with you and are paying attention that you can actually, come to grasp with what there is. So when you have medication shifts like that, you have to make sure your family knows, you have to make sure your friends know. So if something gets off kilter, somebody notices before there's a real problem.
Absolutely.
And, we're not talking about snipers on the tower here. We're talking about, having issues where you go out and spend $20,000 because you have it. We're talking about issues where, you're so depressed that you are thinking about suicide, or you start giving all your shit away, or you divorce your wife or whatever else because you think that's going to make you make all these other problems go away. There's all these different things that come into it, and they do affect the writing. Mm-hmm. But I learned early on that writing was my way to deal with these things. And I think that's the only reason I did as well as I did for as long as I did. And when writing died for me, I threw myself into software development and did the same thing with software development that I used to do with writing. And that lasted for 15, 16 years. But now I'm back on the writing train, and it's much better for me.
Well, doing what you enjoy always is going to have a positive effect on your mental health. I mean, if you're doing what you truly enjoy and you're getting feedback and you're taking the steps to make a living out of it, then that's, at the end of the day, that's going to be psychologically and emotionally healthy for you.
Yeah.
As writers, we've got these tools that we're used to watching people, picking up on the little things. So it's turning those tools around and watching ourselves. And like you said, when you're in the moment, you're like, I have no idea why I'm acting this way. This is weird. I know it's not normal and I know it's not regular, but I don't know how to describe it. Sometimes it's training yourself or having the tools there to go, oh, let me at least write this down now, how I'm feeling. Something as simple as a Facebook post that you don't share with anybody else. Or, well, no, it's.
No, I understand what you're talking about.
It's a quick documentation. Like, yeah, okay,
I have a notepad I've got probably 500 or 600 entries on this thing.
Yeah, and you recognize those cycles, and you recognize, because you can have the physical sensations. I mean, with my anxiety, I know exactly what my panic attacks feel like, look like, what's going to cause them. And I know what habits I can engage in that are going to lessen them. I don't take any medication. I do psychotherapy with a lovely, lovely professional. But based on my choices and how I know I react to certain types of medication, I was like, you know what, we're going to try psychotherapy first. And if I don't see an improvement, if she agrees we don't see an improvement, then I'll examine that later. But that was my choice. But But yeah, I'll write stuff down or recognize, oh, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. I should put safeguards in place. And it may be as simple as, I'm going to take a half hour this morning and write because it makes me feel good. And I'll have kind of organized my thoughts. And for me, it's accomplishing stuff throughout the day. I've done one positive thing. I can say, yep, I got that check mark off the list done. Great. I can remind myself, hey, I did something good today. Awesome. I mean, writing and benchmarks. You can say, you know what? I wrote 200 words. 200 more if I hadn't written. Sure. I wrote 200 words. But it's recognizing those little things to create those reward systems.
Right. I've written quite a few essays, probably dozens actually, that have never been published, and they're not published because they're rather raw, and there's things that just no one needs to see but me. But the bottom line is that when I'm trapped by the circular thoughts and the racing stuff and everything else, I mean, it's like having squirrels running around on a hamster wheel inside your head. It helps to, get those thoughts on the page, and they don't. What I find myself doing is arguing with myself constantly. It's that little voice that just tells you what a piece of shit human being you are. And sometimes you just have to put that rage on the page about whatever it is that's bugging you. It's got you cycling. Mm-hmm. And it pretty much helps me quiet it down. I mean, those things don't ever really go away unless I'm really focused on something. I think it was one of the reasons why writing is such a joy. And even software development, before people started making about politics and not actually getting shit done, it pleased me a lot. I could lose myself in code for hours on end and accomplish something. I mean, when you click something and it compiles, you run a command and it compiles, that's victory one. Victory two is actually getting the goddamn thing working. But you feel like no matter how small it is, the fact that you've actually done something. Mm-hmm. And that kind of goes along with writing some words down a day on the fiction or anything else, because let's face it, it's escape. It's always escape. It is a way to declutter, is a way to flush your brain and hopefully fill it with something more positive. Because imagination, I think, is, when we're really into it and really using it and everything else, is extremely positive. When you get stuck in the daydreams that go somewhere that aren't about your personal standing in life, or how good of a human being you are, but they're basically the daydreams where you're allowing yourself to go and visit the things you want to visit and deal with the issues you want to deal with in your own way. I think that is the most powerful therapy there is in the world. Results may vary, obviously, but when I'm in those moments, there's nothing else. There's just nothing else. There's nothing else until the dog comes and bumps my elbow to tell me she's out of water. There's nothing else until she comes and bumps me because I've been sitting too long. There's nothing else until I have to get up and get more coffee. And even then, the coffee cup will sit here empty for hours before I end up going back because I get lost in what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's like you have to finish this sentence, you have to finish this thought, you have to finish putting this character in terrible, horrible peril, and then maybe you can get a cup of coffee.
I don't do that. God.
You was talking about me.
So,
yeah, I know you do that.
Let me ask you this, Paul. One thing that I haven't heard you talk about is reaching out to someone else, whether it be a friend, whether it be, I don't know, your co-host, to say, I'm struggling with something here and it feels wrong, and have your co-host or your friend give you the raw, you can do it. Is that helpful?
Sometimes. I know that when I've been stuck, and in fact, I've said this before, without Terry and Justin, the Black would not exist. It just would not exist. That little brainstorming session we did. And I know that when I try and talk to people, not by voice all that much, but I try and communicate with folks all the time. And I have a couple of folks who deal with some of the same issues I do. And so we kind of created our own little support group where we kind of rattle back and forth. And that really does help a lot. and we ask each other questions. It's not just, are you doing okay? It is, are you having this? Are you having this? Are you having this? Okay, we're cool. It's just a matter of somebody saying, tell me what's going on in your head. And then basically being able to have the courage to admit what is going on in your head, just like you would with a therapist, and say those things aloud and get them on the page. And then you realize half of them are ridiculous. But it's not until you hear someone, ask those questions, or somebody is probing you for that information, that you really get it. And
not to minimize anything that you've said, or to minimize any condition, but it sounds in a lot of cases like it's very easy to get into a feedback loop inside your head, to where you're feeding your own self, and it's part of the condition. It's not something that's not part of the condition. But you get locked into your own head and you don't reach out. And it's very helpful to have somebody to poke that feedback loop from the outside and say, hey, what's going on in there, buddy?
I have friends who, if they haven't heard from me in a couple weeks, and I don't see them but maybe once every 2 months or so, will call me and say, why haven't you called me? And it'll be just one of these kinds of like, I don't know, because I'm in my happy place right now, or my scary place right now, and I don't feel like dealing with humans. But the fact that it's like, hey, let's go to have lunch, or let's meet for a drink, or hell, let's get together and throw darts and be stupid. Those little things really help you get recentered, and can kind of help you put things in perspective. I think the worst thing for somebody is to sit in an office all day with no human contact. It is so easy for me to stay here and not go outside, not walk, not talk to a human being until my wife gets home. It is so easy to do that. But you lose, everything starts to just become jumbled, and it just doesn't make sense anymore. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so comfortable writing in crowded places like bars or restaurants or whatever else. It's just the fact that human beings are around you and you feel kind of plugged in. You feel like you're kind of part of things. So writing is a very lonely, solitary thing. Even if you're co-writing with somebody, it is still lonely and solitary. So and if you keep doing it long enough without somebody breaking into the cycle, I think you kind of detach yourself, and that just makes things worse. So yes, having a support group, having friends who know that they need to punch you in the face every now and then to get you to, communicate is extremely helpful, because I think the isolation is it's a horrible enemy to have. And unless you're built to where you can embrace it. But I'm not built that way. I'm very gregarious. I just also am very anxious and shy. People just don't know it.
Writers tend to be introverts and relatively shy, some more than others.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Some of us force extroversion.
Do what now, say?
Some of us force extroversion. When I taught, I would have my students try to guess. I'm like, oh, you're an extrovert. I'm like, nope, I am faking all of this for the next hour. And they're like, really? I was like, yes. And then I'm going to go hide for an hour and I'm going to regroup because y'all are exhausting. And they're like, oh,
that sounds like most
really?
of the cons I've been to.
Well, I mean, you've seen me at more cons than Terry has, but I love being around people. I will be in a public area. I may not say a damn thing for a half hour. I'm content to sit there and listen and just kind of take it in. That makes me comfortable. And fear of missing out at cons. It's like, I'm going to miss something. I'm going to miss somebody. I'm going to miss a conversation. So I'll run myself ragged. It's that anxiety running me ragged. But all I need to just sit and listen. Get me a coffee at the bar. I'm a happy girl.
I'm an extremely introverted guy, and over the last few decades, I've developed a mask that I wear in public, and it's a persona. And after a few decades of wearing that persona, it becomes comfortable. I can be on a podcast, I can interact with other people, I can get up in front of a room and speak to people, and it doesn't bother me anymore because the mask has become that comfortable. But it's still a mask. it's still there.
I think the one of the most difficult things for me to do is readings. Yeah, you're looking at me like that. Readings and con stuff in general, being on panels, is I am always just until things actually get going, I have stage fright that is just horrible. And I think that's one of the reasons why when I was manic the first couple of years that I was doing this, I drank to just reckless proportions, just basically to try and keep all that medicate, self-medicate all that stuff away, which is not a good idea either. So there's you have to find ways to deal with this. And part of that was basically kind of opening up to it. And I have a lot of friends at Balticon, for instance, that kind of will keep me stable and help me through things. It's Scott Pond making fun of me or buying me goofy slippers or whatever else, all these little distractions that they do, so that you're kind of forced to be a human being against your will, and put in kind of an embarrassing situation. But that embarrassment kind of covers up the anxiety of talking to a bunch of people you don't know from anybody.
Yeah.
And,
I mean,
getting up there and reading your work and feeling like, hey, somebody actually wants to hear this.
yeah. When I go to cons, that red dress, I swear to God, it's battle armor. It really is. I will show up for a reading. It's very rare. I think maybe like only 1 or 2 cons recently, I would wear like shorts or jeans and sandals and a t-shirt. Otherwise, it was business casual, because that was, like Terry said, the face that helped me feel more confident and get through the anxiety. It's like, this is like a classroom and teaching, and I'm good at that. So I can get in there and I look like I belong here, sort of. I think I belong here. Okay.
Whether or not I feel that way is completely different.
Exactly. But if I've got the hair done and the makeup on and I got these heels, sure, why not?
So you kind of found your way to deal with being out there in the world, which is, like you said, the armor.
Yeah.
What do you do when you're just dealing with normal people every day?
Well, dealing with normal people every day, most of the, like you said, I didn't get a formal diagnosis for mine until I was well past my, my growing up and beyond years. I didn't get a formal diagnosis till after my daughter was born. And with my background in psychology, I had the vocabulary and the education behind it. And I was like, ooh, this is a life experiment. I'm exhibit A. Huh, this is interesting. What I realized is that, one, in any given day, the mundanes around you have no idea.
They're called muggles.
Oh, I like muggles. I figured mundanes was just, a step below.
We in our support group, we call them muggles.
All right. Well, then most muggles have no idea. They're not that interested in you, for better or for worse. It's not that they don't care. It's just that you don't give that outward appearance. And that can be a great thing, because it means that you can hide and go along with your life. You can drag yourself out of the house if you've got to go to the store, or you want to, run an errand. You have to take the cat to the vet. You can hide long enough for those little interactions and you'll be okay. The other thing I realized is that you want to surround yourself with people who, they may not always understand, but they're willing to listen and empathize, and I don't want to say appreciate, but I guess allow you and give you space to work through what you're managing. They're the people who understand that if saying, speaking to someone who's in a depressive episode, oh, it's really not that bad. Don't be upset. Don't be sad. Dude, do you want to get smacked? I mean,
yeah, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work. It's not something that can turn off. I can fake it, sure. But if I'm with someone who I value and care about, I'd like that to be reciprocated. Let me be myself. Similarly, please don't tell me not to worry. It's a default position. I am going to worry. I can worry about anything. It's a superpower. Anything, any given time, I will find the worst case scenario and focus on that.
Hell
Why?
yeah.
So
Hell yeah.
let me ask you this. Do you ever find yourself worrying about worrying?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
Oh my, that's the most, like, interaction wise. There are plenty of times where I sit in front of a chat window or an email. I'm like, I have to ask people for things. I have to ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have a meaningful interaction. Crap, how do I phrase this? They're going to hate me. Oh my gosh, they're totally going to hate me. Okay, this is massive, squirrel speed conversation running through my head. I've maybe typed 2 words.
Do you know that it's obvious when it happens in person? Because the very first time that I met you at Balticon, I wanted to talk about something that we were doing narration-wise, and I could see it on your face when I said, I really'd like to talk, and you were dodging, trying to not talk. And because I was like, no, I really want to talk about it. We need to talk. I probably should have used those particular words. But I could see it on your
because
face.
I think code.
You were expecting it was going to be bad news.
Yeah, code word for bad news.
It's nothing like that. But we need to settle a couple of little things. Let me step back just a little bit. No, it's not like that at all. But I could see it on your face.
Because at the end of the day, I always with anxiety plus what I had just started doing on my own and leaving the day job, it was like, crap, what did I screw up now? And when someone says we need to talk, it's almost a default, crap, what did I screw up?
Yeah, something bad has gone down. That's why it's like my father, he sends me his text and says, call me, and with no context. I don't know if mom fell down. I don't know if somebody died. I don't know what the hell's going on. Just call me, and no, just absolutely no context. And it drives me absolutely shit bat spare because at this age, it could be anything.
Mm-hmm. So it's the messenger. They have no idea how you're going to react.
No, they don't.
It's not really their responsibility to, maybe they'll call me. I could, from a parent's standpoint, add something there. But like Terry's like, we need to talk. Okay, that's a very basic, sure. But yeah,
the first words out of my mouth were, it's not anything big. We actually talked. I'm like,
but in that split second, Terry, an eternity of horrible things ran around the universe.
Know that at the time I said the words, I did not have any idea.
He hates the characterization. He's going to find another narrator. Oh no, that's awful.
That's exactly what I thought you were thinking, and I'm like, no, it's nothing like that at all.
My uncle had a really good way of putting this. He said that and he's got some of the same issues I do in a way. He said that basically we're all at a bus station, and what you're doing is you're waiting for the right bus to come along. And you see these buses go by with these interesting destinations like Misery Town, Failure, all these different places that you can go. And he said, your problem is you keep jumping on whatever bus comes around. And when you realize you're on the wrong bus, you need to get off at the next stop. And then you need to find the bus you're supposed to be on, the one you want to be on. So there goes self-loathing. There goes failure. Oh, there's Soul and Beyond. Let me jump on that son of a bitch. It's stuff like that, or there's Dark Knight. Let's jump on that puppy, or, whatever else it could be. Something that doesn't make you anxious. It doesn't make you fall. Doesn't lead you down to create 17 different narratives where you fail, or that bad things happen and you are the cause why. If, those are the buses that you have to learn to say, oh, I'm on this bus. I need to get off this bus. And every night now I find myself doing it. I consider something, I jump on the bus and I go off in this horrible fantasy where everything's just rust and ruin. And then I'm getting better about it. I can realize that I'm doing it and jump off. It's a strategy that I haven't been using for very long, but it's helping a lot. And then the other thing is basically try and bring, if there's not a bus with Soul and Beyond on it, or the Black or Garaga or something like that, I will build that motherfucker and have it come down the road and gladly pay for it.
You like the Soul and Beyond Uber.
Yeah, the Soul and Beyond Uber. Let me make my call here to the trio.
Or the Black Lift.
Oh, that's bad. That's bad.
One of the things that I try to do once I'm aware that I need to behave in a certain way, it's not, the right word is accommodation. Once I'm aware of a particular set of circumstances, it's what I see to do is I have to make an accommodation for how the other person is feeling. So it's not denigrating them, it's making allowances for, I need to keep this in mind as I'm interacting with them. And it's a way of not triggering somebody into some type of episode. It's watching how you behave so you don't inadvertently make something worse. And you may help make it better. That's the whole goal, is to, as a friend, is to help them in some way without being a jerk. I can't manage that last part. I'm a jerk. I'm sorry.
Most of the time, the folks who are having the most problems are the ones that you don't expect to, or you don't realize there is a problem at all. And that's some of that is the coping mechanisms have been learned over a lifetime of dealing with the issue. Some of it is we've just gotten really good at putting on that facade, really good at putting on that mask. When you get called into a meeting and you have to explain why your idea is going to work and why what they're doing is going to be absolute freaking disaster, you sit there and you go, am I right? Am I just making this? Am I seeing shit that's not there? And you completely second guess yourself all the way around. But when you get up there to actually talk to them, you can't let them see that. You have to put on that face. And that's a coping mechanism everybody's got to learn in life to a certain degree. You have to, no matter what your self-doubt is and everything else, when you've analyzed everything that's going there, you have to make a decision and go. You cannot play Hamlet your entire freaking life. And unfortunately, I know some folks who would have been really great writers if they could have staunched that last part. And that was a very difficult part for me to kill too. And I still deal with it on a daily basis. It can be really daunting because you don't know, whether or not, excuse me, whether or not, what you're doing is working or not working. And that carries over into your entire dealing with human beings. You always end up second guessing that. So it can be kind of tough to be around these muggles at times, especially if you're at cons or readings or anything else. And like I said, people have different coping mechanisms for them, but you need to learn the healthy ones, because I can tell you about all the unhealthy ones.
Yeah.
Something of what you said there triggered a memory of a quote from Theodore Roosevelt that may not particularly apply, but I'm going to read it anyway. In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing you can do is the wrong thing. And the worst thing you can do is nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're, and this is almost goes into writer's block, when you're prevaricating about, what's the next scene? What's the next thing the character does? Am I really going down the right path? Not doing it and then backtracking to get it right is the most harmful thing I think you can possibly do. And that kind of goes with seeing doctors. That kind of goes admitting that you've got a problem, or maybe you have a problem and you need to talk to somebody. You have to be willing to go and get that kind of help. Maybe there's nothing wrong with you. Maybe you're just going through a period where, hell, you need a vacation.
Yeah, that's something that plenty of professionals will tell you. Sometimes, like, well, this may be your baseline, but here's my perspective after everything you've told me. Do you realize that you've been dealing with this much stuff? And that's not normal for any human being. So yeah, your sense is a bit warped right now. Maybe you need some help in the short term, and let's work on some healthy coping mechanisms so it doesn't come back up to that level again.
Yeah.
But you need that perspective. And one of the good things I think that's come out in the past couple decades is that people are more accepting or understanding. Yeah, it's less of a stigma. Stigma. I can say words. But it's less of a stigma. Both acknowledging that you're living with these challenges and acknowledging that here is how I am getting help.
I started off this program by saying that I didn't in particular have issues that I needed to cope with, and you just reminded me of something that 15 years ago I had to seek counseling because of anger issues. Frustration would cause me to build up to a point like a boiler and lash out, and I didn't have appropriate coping mechanisms to deal with that type of behavior. And it's been long enough, and went to therapy, got the appropriate coping mechanisms, developed a way to deal with coping. I can even speak occasionally.
Coping. What are those coping things?
Mechanisms. I learned the appropriate coping mechanisms to deal with the frustration that was causing me to build up that anger and lash out. Now I very seldom get frustrated to the point that I get angry, and I forget that I ever had that issue, but I did. And I dealt with it. And sometimes therapy can help you put something like that behind you and deal with it appropriately.
Yeah, I think that basically what it comes down to is you need to talk to your friends, you need to talk to your family, you need to talk to a doctor, you need to basically put everything kind of in perspective. And when we're in the moment, it is extremely difficult to do that. And, it's just like an alcoholic or a drug addict, anything else, realizing there's a problem is, the first step toward solving it. And, not doing anything isn't really going to do you any good either. It's just going to make things worse, because if you know there's an issue, or you think there's an issue, putting it off just means when it finally crashes, it's going to be epic. And you can end up in a hospital with arrhythmia and have them have to restart your heart. So there's things that you kind of need to listen to your body. You need to listen to your head. And I mean, I wouldn't say you need to become a complete and total basket case about it. But the bottom line is that there's a continuing problem. You need to do something about it. Maybe, and like I said, maybe it's just that you're burned out and need a freaking vacation, a few days without the kids, without your spouse. Maybe just kind of go off for a weekend by yourself, or just go out and watch a movie by yourself. Just, get away from whatever it is that's stressing you for, a few hours, so you can get some perspective. So I think those are my words of advice from somebody who didn't take their own advice.
Well, and your writing will be better for it. You mean you have to take care of yourself so you can get the words on the page.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we laugh that we are just organisms to turn caffeine into words, but you know what? You still need water. You still need the occasional healthy meal, and you still need to walk more than 5 steps a day from your chair to the fridge. You've got to do those things regardless.
So if you walk 8 steps to your fridge and then get the extra thick sandwich, you're all right. No?
Well, no, if you get the extra thick sandwich, you have to chase the cat around the house and then come back. That'll compensate.
What if the cats are chasing you around the house? Does that count?
That's double. That's a sandwich and chips.
I'll tell Shadow he's good for something at least. He'll be very, very happy about that.
No. And that's another like quick side bit. Those of us who have pets, pay attention to their reactions to you.
Yes.
If you're in an episode, I kid you not, I have my one cat who I swear is an anxiety ball of fur and murder hooks herself. But she knows when I'm having a rough day, because I'll stop recording, I'll walk out, I'll come back. That little snit is sitting in my chair. She knows she's not supposed to be in the studio. She's sitting in the chair and meows at me like, okay, you put your butt here. I'm going to sit in your lap. You cannot move or do anything else for 10 minutes. And I'm sure like you said, your dog will come over and headbutt you. It's like, dude, up.
Yeah, it's time for you to pay attention to me. just for a little while. Doesn't have to be very long, but it's time for you to pay attention to me.
Mhm.
Yeah, the furry beasts are really come in handy because I do watch their reactions. I watch what they're doing. If Keko is being especially snuggly, that means she's probably not feeling well, or she knows I'm not feeling well. So that kind of is a bit of a bit of an alert sign for me. You know how she reacts, and it's little stuff like that. If you just become a little bit more aware of how people are responding to you and how you're responding to them, then you have a lot less problems. But the trick is teaching yourself to be self-aware to begin with, and sometimes that's an extremely difficult thing to do, because not being self-aware allows you to do lots of stupid shit and get away with it morally and ethically in your own brain, but it doesn't quite really work that way.
Not in the long term.
No, not in the long term. There are always consequences. So it's just a matter of getting out in front of this. So I think we're all three in agreement that if you're having issues, you need to seriously consider what kind of help that you need to get past it. And I'm proof that you can make it to 47, 48 years old and only know that you've been bipolar for the last 8 or 9 years. So it doesn't always end with a gun to your head or doing something that makes you go to prison.
We think it's all a good idea if you avoid going to prison.
Yeah, avoid going to prison, avoid killing yourself. Those are all good things not to do. So, and I will say this, Closet Treats, that book is about my fears of what I could become. And that's, dealing with them that way on the page was a really excellent way of getting out of where I was at the time. Plus, it had a cool monster, so
Of course. Bonus.
Well, I guess we should probably wrap this up. Any final thoughts, V?
Biggest one is if you suspect something, talk to somebody. The worst thing you can do is be quiet and keep those words to yourself. Even if it's putting it down in a journal, if it's talking to a good friend, a spouse, partner, what have you. If you're not sure, just speak up. Your brain and your livelihood will thank you for it later, even if it's uncomfortable now.
There's an app out there called Mood Diary that I've got from the App Store. I don't know if it's on Android or not, but it's definitely out there for the iPhone. But I'm sure there's others like that allow you to basically put in notes every day about what your mood was and things like that, and it keeps track, and it will show you patterns because you choose a smiley face or whatever to describe your mood, and then basically it will crunch numbers and show you if you're cyclical, if there's something going on, and also so when you go back to talk to your doctor, they can tell that, hey, this medication is not working, or it's not working the way it's supposed to. So there are little tools like that will really, really help you. The other thing is, set a damn alarm for yourself so you get up every 55 minutes. Please. Yep. Just do it. I watch nags me constantly, and it's a good thing. So does mine. Yeah, there you go. Terry? You got nothing?
I don't have a watch to nag me, but definitely taking the time to get out of your comfortable space and go exercise, no matter what's going on in your life, just go for a walk. It won't hurt. It might help, and it'll change your perspective. Maybe. I'm not a medical professional. What do I know? I think it will, but I had to qualify that.
Yeah. Well, if there are any medical professionals listening to the show, I'd love to hear what you have to say about our stupidity. But that said, I think we need to cut this off. If you have additional questions or comments about what we said on the show, you can email us at show@debrobotssociety.com. You can tweet us at Paul_E_Cooley, or you can join the listeners, the Dead Robot Society Facebook group, where we have a ton of members, and we're doing things like, trying to figure out whose story we're going to brainstorm on live on the show. So, go check that out. And we'd be remiss if we didn't thank our wonderful... Shut up. And we'd be remiss if we didn't thank our wonderful host, Pod Hoster, who makes all 4 bazillion episodes of the Dead Robot Society available for your ear holes. You can view us on YouTube at youtube.com/DRS podcast if you want to see our ugly mugs next to Veronica's beautiful one. And you can join us at patreon.com/DRS podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive content, early podcast episodes, blah, 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 all the way around. So if you're interested in helping keep the show commercial free, please join us. Veronica, thank you very much for coming on. And I have to hold myself 1 second because I forgot I didn't check my list, and therefore I screwed it up. And at the $10 level on Patreon, you get your name read every week. So here we go. Our $10 patrons are John Kilgallen, Robert Slade, Devin Lee, Caleb, back from a serious crack and hooker bender, James. Yes, Caleb, thank you. Nathan Petty demands more live shows. Just saying. It's owed to us. Wow. He did not read yesterday's post, did he?
Clearly.
Drew, Harry's Fault Bernardi, Chris Winder, Isabel Cushy, Andre Conde Moraes, DJ Chamberlain, Jonathan Zarusin, and J.R. Handley. And thank you, as always, patrons. And yes, there are 2 live shows coming up, although by the time this is actually put out there, one of them may have already occurred. So, watch the schedule we post on Facebook. That said, V, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And anytime, despite what I tell Terry, anytime. And Terry, thank you for showing up. Finally.
Oh, you don't know how close it was.
Okay.
With that said, we'll see y'all next week. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. Long live the Empire.
Bye-bye.